Good morning. I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive, and I'm here today at the White Plains Youth Bureau to announce a reprioritization of funds from Westchester County that will restore funding that was cut in the last month to some of the important youth bureaus that serve our urban centers. I'm joined today both inside and outside the ring by a number of elected officials and people that have experience with the various programs that we're refunding. And so we're very happy to be here in White Plains for this. But the initiative that we're taking today includes New Rochelle, Peekskill, White Plains, and Yonkers. So it includes many of our existing centers. I do want to point out today I'm joined by Deputy County Executive Ken Jenkins, who is with us here. Ken, thank you for being with us. And Ken was essential in being able to help us prioritize these issues, and I appreciate his leadership on this. We're also joined by Dennis Power, who is the Chief of Staff for the Board of Legislators. He's a former White Plains City Councilman. He is here. Board of Legislator Chairman Ben Boykin is out of town on business, but he's ably represented by Alfreda Williams, who's the Vice Chair of the Board, who'll be speaking in a few minutes, but we thank Mr. Powers for being here as well. Our action that we're taking in Westchester County under our new administration is to restore what amounts to slightly under $300,000 of funding that was cut most recently in December. And the funding went to a series of youth bureaus around Westchester County and critical programs that those dollars funded. In this budget cycle, in the Invest in Kids money, we have contributed since 1993 an investment in youth programs that we think help raise healthy kids, and particularly those that are in difficult environments, particularly those young people of color, and particularly those in our urban centers. Although needs are everywhere, we know that they are particularly concentrated in some of these communities. The budget that was adopted and the contracts that were adopted in December held Mount Vernon harmless, but made cuts to White Plains, Peekskill, New Rochelle, and Yonkers. And our action today restores funding to those four entities. As I said, it totals about $300,000, not quite $300,000. We're here in White Plains, where you'll hear in a few minutes how some of the money that's being restored to White Plains would be used for programs like Step Up Boys, for Clubman Higher Aims, which is a public-private partnership, young men being mentored by those who are mature, 90% success rate. Also Healthy and Fit for Life, right here, the boxing program. We're going to hear from Mr. Mack and Mr. Williams, who have experience in this. As I said before I got into the ring, as a young person, I boxed a couple of times, lost every time I was in the ring. So I decided that there'd be a different kind of fight that I would get into in the world of government and politics, which I've been a little more successful at. Our restoration is critical in these communities, because if we don't invest in young people, we will continue to have problematic outcomes. And I repeat the word invest, because people will talk about government spending, but an investment is something that pays dividends. And it takes 10 times the amount of money to repair a broken life than it is to prevent that from happening in the first place. As I've often heard said, it costs more money to incarcerate a person on a full-time basis than to educate them at Harvard. And if we can avoid that reality for as many young men and young women as we can in this county, then we are saving ourselves money by the money that we spend today. Very important point. Saving money in the long run by spending money wisely in the short run. And so our restoration of these funds will go to New Rochelle and their Youth Bureau program. They run an excellent youth court, which I've had a chance to see in person in New Rochelle. Very important way to help young people who interact with the legal system to do it in a positive way early on, with an opportunity to avoid a life that might involve such behavior going forward. In Peekskill, we're restoring money to the LIFT program. That's a teen leadership program in that community. Here in White Plains, as I mentioned, the number of programs, and in a second, Mayor Tom Roach will come to the microphone. He'll talk in a little bit greater detail about that. And then also the WJCS Center Lane program based in Yonkers. And all of these things together, I think, represent intelligent public policy. And as we can see from headlines every day, the need to address the problems of our youth, urban and elsewhere, is critical. And we're at fault if we don't make those investments at the same time that we expect to see an output that's improved in these communities. So without any further dialogue on my part, I'm going to introduce first Alfreda Williams, who's a legislator who represents a portion of White Plains as well as Greenburgh and a couple of the villages in Greenburgh, and she is Vice Chair of the Board of Legislators. Then I'm going to introduce Dr. Damia Harris Madden, who we have just appointed this week to be the director of the Westchester County Youth Bureau. We're very happy to have her. She's experienced from her past tenure at Mount Vernon. And then I will introduce the mayor of the city of White Plains, Tom Roach, who will then take it from there to talk about the White Plains programs. So first, County Legislator, Vice Chair of the Board, Alfreda Williams.
Thank you, George. Good morning.
Good morning.
I am delighted to be here to celebrate the restoration of these funds for these very needy programs and for these young people. As you know, the Invest in Kids programs serve at-risk youngsters under the age of 18. So it's for positive youth development, and it focuses on the provision of opportunities for young people to actively acquire skills and abilities needed to grow up to be competent, caring, and healthy adults. The key elements of this model include involvement of youth leadership and service programs, planning activities, program implementation, and program evaluation. Inclusion of parents, religious organizations, and the widest possible diversity of community groups and informal systems in the planning and implementation of youth services. Provision of a range of structured activities for youth and diverse interests and with diverse interests and needs. I'm reading and I'm not doing a hell of a job with it, but I want you to know that these programs are terribly, terribly necessary for young people to give them the opportunity to move up in our world and make a contribution in terms of their education and their abilities. And without these programs, obviously, at-risk youngsters will suffer. So, as I said earlier, I'm delighted to be here to provide a verbal acclamation or recognition of the restoration of the programs, the provision of opportunities for young people to feel supported and safe, community and program focus on access building by helping young people acquire positive values, social competencies, positive identity, and educational commitment. They're all good things, and they're all things our country needs, because we talk about the fact that young people are our future, but most of the time it's lip service. And here we are providing practical, no-nonsense kinds of programs that are going to be more than lip service. So I'm with it, I'm for it, and I'm delighted that we can do this. Thank you.
And I think it's very important to highlight that legislators Alfreda Williams, also her colleague Ben Boykin, who is chair but also represents White Plains, her colleagues from New Rochelle, James Mazzano and Damon Marr, and colleagues from Peekskill, John Testa. All of these legislators have advocated for these additional funds. So as we go about making the transfers necessary to fund these programs, we know that members of the Board of Legislators have advocated for these very changes. Next, I'd like to introduce Dr. Damia Harris-Madden, who has just agreed to serve as our Westchester County Director of our Youth Bureau. She has come most recently from the same responsibilities in the city of Mount Vernon, and now we're going to take the talent that she's shown in Mount Vernon and spread that wealth all across Westchester County. So I'm very honored to have her with us as part of the team. Dr. Harris-Madden.
Thank you so much. Thank you. What a way to begin my first few days working with the county executive and county government. I am extremely delighted to learn that the youth bureaus in New Rochelle, White Plains, Peekskill, and also WJCS will be afforded the opportunity to continue the very important programs that they have been delivering for many years. Although many of us have been perplexed about why these organizations did not receive funding in the first round, I am truly excited that our county executive and the Board of Legislators has had the insight and the commitment to demonstrate to our communities that these are vital programs that must continue to be supported. Just from my experience working within the Youth Bureau system, I understand keenly the job and the onerous task of implementing programs within communities that have hardships. We have seen in Rochelle a recent uptick in violence, and so this is not the time to cut these lifelines to these communities. Our county executive mentioned the importance of investment. Well, I am a product of the Mount Vernon Youth Bureau and the city of Mount Vernon. And so, again, I understand the needs within the community. I am very proud to say that young people have been prepared through youth bureaus and the youth bureau system to become self-sufficient, to become leaders, and to also save our community's dollars. We know that when we invest in young people, we not only save economically, because if we don't provide these programs, we face trillions of dollars. In fact, research indicates that if we don't invest in young people, the lifetime burden on taxpayers rise to about $2 trillion. If that's not worthy, I don't know what else is. But I will say that social costs are also very important too. We know that positive youth development is critical, and we understand that if we do not invest now, we will have significant trouble in the future. I'm really excited about WJCS as well, because we know the LGBTQIA community deserves our attention. With that population having a rise in suicide rates as well as other mental health disorders, again, another critical lifeline to our young people that may be in need. So I thank my county executive for appointing me to this position. I am very much present and ready to jump in and help to serve these communities, and I am very much appreciative of Frank Williams and Mayor Roach for having us here today, and I look forward to working with everyone going forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Harris-Madden. Again, we're very honored to have you as part of our team, and we know that your contributions will be felt all throughout the county. So thank you very much for your time. My final introduction, I'll turn the program over to him, is of the mayor of the city. He doesn't need an introduction from me, but over the course of the 26 days of this administration, which is really almost no time at all, we've made a point of talking about cooperation with local governments. We've made a point about saying how we want to respect local governments and hear their call when they have different issues. When Councilwoman Nadine Hunt Robinson reaches out to us, that matters to us. When we hear from mayors like Noam Bramson in New Rochelle, or Mike Spano in Yonkers, or when we hear from people in any sort of responsibility at the operational level of these different bureaus, that we don't want to have a deaf ear to them. We don't want to act like it's your government versus our government. We work together for the benefit of the people of this county. I've known Tom Roach for a long time. We're friends. But at the same time, in his advocacy, along with the members of the Common Council, for right here in White Plains, the promise of cooperation is the rubber meeting the road when we're prepared to take county resources and reallocate them to make sure that this city of White Plains and the other communities I've mentioned has the resources they need to maintain programs so they can maintain service. So it is the advocacy of Alfreda Williams and Ben Boykin that matter at the county level, and it's also the advocacy of Mayor Tom Roach. So Tom, thank you for your energy in pushing this, and please introduce us to all the people in White Plains that we need to know.
Thank you, George. I want to thank you, George, and I want to say welcome. And so far, so good. But I really appreciate what George just said, our county executive. I've known him for many years, and in fact, many people know I'm in politics because of George. I actually had a lunch with him where he explained, I asked him, how do you get active? I want to get active. And he explained to me how to do it. And I think I did okay, right? Okay.
My wife is not too happy.
But I do want to acknowledge Councilwoman Nadine Hunt Robinson, who's also the chair of our youth board, is here, as well as our school superintendent, Joseph Ricca, who we work very closely with. We're so pleased to have this outcome. I also want to thank Ken Jenkins, and Ben Boykin and Alfreda Williams and the other people in the county legislature that worked hard to make sure that George would be able to do this when he came into office, because of course this occurred after George had been elected, but prior to his taking office. I feel, and since I've been mayor, our youth bureau programs and our youth Bureau are as important as anything else the city does. I strongly believe that from the time a child is born until the time the child well past college, we need to be making sure that all the opportunities that we can possibly put in front of them are put in front of them, because that makes a difference. You can't in 10th grade put someone in an SAT prep class and think that's going to make, that's going to solve every kind of issue. You have to be working with young people from the very beginning. If you put as many things as you can in front of a young person, they will grab onto something that they love, and once they grab onto that, they're better at everything. And I can't tell you how many young people I know that are amazing at what they do, and I think if it weren't for programs or a mentor or somebody who put them in contact with that activity, we would have lost that creativity, because it's not just about doing right for our young people, it's about doing right for our community and the future of our nation. And that's what happens in youth bureaus, and that's why it's so important that we fund them adequately. Now, we have a lot of speakers, and I'm in a boxing ring, and Coach Mack probably has a bell that he can ring. So I'm going to, at this time, introduce our wonderful director of our youth bureau, Frank Williams.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, County Executive George Latimer. Thank you, Ken Jenkins. Thank our superintendent. Thank our County Board of Legislators. Thank our youth advocates, our youth bureaus, our youth board members, our staff. Here in White Plains, the Youth Bureau, for more than 7,000 kids, is a place called home. It's a place where they're nurtured and developed. It's a place of health and safety. We have 1,000 kids in after-school programs here through the Youth Bureau. And then we have about 1,000 kids or more who are in after-school programs. And these programs are vital to the life of our young people. Think about it, $62,000 to care for a young person in the juvenile justice system. It's important that we seize the opportunity and recognize that it's only pennies to serve a child on the front end as opposed to the back end. And we've been working hard with Cora Greenberg and Allison Lake and others, trying to improve the life outcomes of our young people, to create outcomes and baselines, to get data so that we can further assess and analyze what young people need. But here in the White Plains Youth Bureau, we got it. We know what they need. They need connections with loving adults, need caring hands, they need pathways and opportunities, they need support. They need wraparound services. Here in this boxing ring, every day after school, this ring is full of young people. Many of them have fallen down. Many of them have been marginalized. Many of them have lost hope in their future. But thanks to Coach Mack and our staff, these young people are being trained. They're pursuing boxing. They're concerned about health and fitness. 100 young people are in our health and fitness program. And then for our Clubman Higher Aims program, think about it. For 9 consecutive years, 100% of the students have gone on to college. And our Step Up program, which are a program that serves young people who perhaps come from single-parent homes, 90% of these young people have come through this program and gone on to college. I just happen to know, I'm all over New York State with Youth Bureau, that we have the best youth development programs in White Plains and Mount Vernon and New Rochelle and Yonkers and Peekskill. I know that. Many youth bureaus throughout the state, the 107 youth bureaus, they close at 6 o'clock. But here in White Plains, we're open Monday through Saturday. And there's always something good going on. While in December, we have been floored, and we got a right blow and perhaps a left blow. But being in this boxing ring, we do know that it's not over until the referee gives the count. So we've risen, thanks to County Executive George Latimer and the Board of Legislators. We've gotten up, and we're in this boxing ring today because it symbolizes that sometimes in life you get knocked down, but you do get up. You get a second chance and sometimes a third chance. So I'm honored and thankful that we have gotten funds to restore the great programs that Mayor Roach, Common Council, our citizens of White Plains have given to us to shelter, to hold, to provide strength base to our communities, to ensure that young people have opportunities to dream dreams and to achieve those dreams. So I'm thankful to the county exec for getting up, getting back in the ring, and continuing to go on to more than 12 and 15 rounds. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Frank. And I think our results speak for themselves in our graduation rates and the success we have and the young people that we put out into the world. And we're doing this inside of a boxing ring. We have our boxing coach with us, Kenneth Mack. And I know if you ever want to get in shape, I've run marathons. Nothing is more exhausting than a 3-minute round, I'll tell you that. So with that, I'm going to introduce Mr. Mack, who will talk to you about his program. As I said, it's important to put everything in front of a child. For someone, painting is going to be it, and someone else is going to be boxing. And if you're the boxing person, here's your man.
My name is Coach Mack, and one of the reasons why I came back to this program is to make a difference in the children that are produced out of White Plains Youth Bureau and go into the world to make a difference. Now, boxing doesn't relate to just the ring, it relates to life. And in life, you have different challenges, you know, to overcome. Like Boss said, if you fall, you get back up and you keep fighting. You know, but mentally, physically, and spiritually, that's why I call it a boxing fitness program, because you must be fit mentally, physically, and spiritually to overcome different challenges in life. In 2015, I had the privilege to just do that, to apply some of the things I experienced in life to achieve, and fighting in Madison Square Garden twice, going to Europe on the USA boxing team, and a young man called Ben Baez. And Ben Baez went to college, and he also multitasked. He won the Golden Gloves too. So in these situations, we can see that we apply ourselves differently. If you break up the village, you scatter the children. The children end up going into these institutions that doesn't really rehabilitate them. So it kind of connects the young with the old, and it brings the knowledge 360 degrees together and coincides and makes a better world. So that's what I have to say.
And finally, we're going to hear from one of the graduates of our Youth Bureau programs, Tavon Williams, who is now a student at Westchester Community College. I know that he's interested in serving in the clergy, and he's a driven young man and looking to make a change in the world that's positive, and that's what this is all about. So with that, Mr. Williams.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Tavon Williams, and I'm here to speak on behalf of my experience with the Step Up program. I've been a part of the Step Up program for 2 years, and I've learned and done a lot of things. For example, I've gone on several trips. Recently, we went to the African American History Museum in Washington, D.C. We've gone to see a film about Martin Luther King. We've been to the Amateur Night at the Apollo, and it gives me the opportunity to make new friends, meet new people, and learn new things about my history and my culture. The Step Up program has taught me a lot about working in the field and going to school. I graduated high school in June of last year, and I've learned a lot of things about staying in school and keeping good grades and things like that to stay in school and to further your career. So being a part of this program is very influential to me and to all the other boys who are a part of it. So I'd like to say thank you to Mr. Donald Thompson, Mr. Larry Armstrong, who aren't present. So that's it.
Are there any questions by the media for any of our friends who are here? We're happy to answer any questions about either the programs that you're seeing here and the individuals who represent them, or about our action today in restoring funds. If not, we want to thank Frank and the White Plains Youth Bureau for hosting us here in perhaps what will be the most interesting visual that we have over the course of our 4 years. Thank Mayor Roach for his terrific leadership here in White Plains, and thank you all for being a part of this. Have a wonderful day.